Thank you so much. I'm Emily Farra from Vogue, and I'm sitting down with the wonderful EILEEN Fisher, the founder of EILEEN Fisher, to talk about her award and the year that we've just had. Hi, EILEEN.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk with you. How are you doing?
Good, pretty good in the midst of this pandemic that's about to end, I hope. Fingers crossed.
Yes, it's starting to feel the light at the end of the tunnel. We feel like the weather warming up a little bit. It's it feels good. Are you upstate right now?
Right. I'm in Irvington, which is up on the Hudson. Yeah, not too far.
Amazing. Well, I have so many questions for you. We don't have as much time as I would like because I could talk to you all day. But I mean, just in light of this award and the ceremony that's happening with FIT and Earth Day coming up, you know, I'm very curious just to hear, I guess, you know, what this past year has been like for you and for EILEEN Fisher, the business, and, you know, why you're excited about Earth Day coming up, like.
Yeah. Well, starting out with what this year's been, I'm going to say it's probably been the hardest year of my life. And I've been involved in this business for 35 years, and it's definitely been the hardest year in the business too. So it's just really been quite extraordinary, you know. At the same time, it's just been this kind of profound opportunity to stop and reassess everything and just really think about what we're doing, what I'm trying to do. And, you know, sort of in the midst of it, I have kind of really reorganized the way we design, the whole way we think about the products we're making. And we've always been about simple, comfortable clothes, you know, sustainable. We've been on the sustainability path for, I don't know, 25 years, a long time. You know, so those things haven't changed, but, you know, just getting back, I think it's been a very soulful time. We're just getting really back to what matters and to really simplifying, you know, and my clothes are simple to begin with, but I'm like calling it radical simplicity, just like really, really pare down the clothes, the whole process, you know, the way we buy fabrics and the way we flow product into stores, and just I'm calling it undesigning, just really, really, you know, going back to the essence of who we are. That's been actually strangely good, you know, really painful. We really had to scale back. We've had to reduce staff. That's been the hardest part of all, you know, but it's also been, you know, everything is simplifying, everything is clarifying, strangely getting more fun again. It's very odd, you know. It's like we've brought our offices back. We've closed down our city offices, and we've brought our offices back here in Irvington, right here on the waterfront. And it's like we turned it into a whole creative studio, and we're having fun, you know, playing with clothes and doing photo shoots, and just like, it's just, I don't know, really interesting. And I'm just really enjoying that aspect of it. Anyway, okay, I'm going to stop because I could go on, but.
No, I mean, it's amazing. I love that term, radical simplicity. And I think it was around this time last year, around Earth Day, that Vogue ran an interview with you, and something you said was, you know, the biggest thing we can do is reduce. And for all the sustainable materials or, you know, efforts that brands make, I think you mentioned, like, you found that you guys were still producing a lot of stuff and decided that needed to be reined in. And, you know, it's something I think a lot of designers are talking about, but I'm not sure how often it's put into practice, because there is that, you know, there's the opposing force of like fashion needing to be new and different all the time. So I'm curious how that has played out with you.
Right. Oh, well, for starters, we have radically reduced. We've reduced the number of styles we offer in half, at least. and just kind of refocused. Um, oh God, what else to say about that? Um, uh, um, I think the newness thing is interesting. And I think there's two parts to it. There's the newness and then there's the pressure of business. You know, you
Mhm.
have a lot of people working, you have to pay people, and, you know, people need to grow. And so you need to offer opportunities. So you're kind of caught in a way between this sort of, I don't know, rock and a hard place, so to speak. But
Mhm. Right.
um, my theory is the more focus we get and the more clear we get and the more right that, you know, the clothes are, I think that as things open back up, I think that's actually going to work really well for us and for our customers. And I think that the way I'm thinking about it in terms of newness is that I'm thinking of like kind of just reorganizing all the foundation of the line, and then having these contrast pieces. And you don't have to have so many, like, you know, one different new color, one different shape, one special piece. And, you know, all of a sudden everything seems different, and really everything isn't different. 80% is the same. You just have a new thing or two, you know, and it changes the proportion, it changes the focus. It's, you know, it's fuzzy, or it's, you know, it's a fun color or it's something. And then it all just, the way I work is it all just goes together, and you don't have to throw the old things away. You just add a few new things, and it's all part of kind of a
Mhm.
growing system, sort of a, it's not a uniform, but it's kind of a system.
Mhm. Right. And you, like you mentioned earlier, like working this way, you said has been more fun and like energizing and
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense that that would happen, right? When you're focusing more, spending more time on fewer things, maybe.
Right. Right. Exactly right. It got so complicated. It just was, I'm just thinking, you know, walking through my offices today, it's just like, and now I have to stop calling it offices. It feels like a creative studio now. It's just like this beautiful
Mhm.
waterfront loft space, you know, and just seeing the really simple, so many really simple things, and then the new pieces or the contrast pieces seem to just stand out more, or just seem, I don't know, sort of shines a light on them somehow. Um,
Mhm.
but I wanted to say too is I feel more true to myself, and that's an incredible feeling. I feel like this is what I was trying to do all along. But it's like once it gets going and moving so fast, you're like, oh, you're like, at some points I've said feeding the monster, you know, rather than really doing what you love. So
Mhm.
this was that opportunity to return to what I love.
Do you feel like you would have maybe gotten there if not for last year, or it maybe would have taken more time to recenter and all of that?
You know, I was already on a path to sort of recenter, but I
Mhm.
think it would have taken 5 years instead of one, you know. So, and I don't want to say I'm grateful for this pandemic because that would be wrong too. But I think that there's a silver lining here. And
Mhm.
I think that it's not all bad. There's meaning. Everything happens for a reason. And this is no exception.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, well, sort of related to that, I feel like because of the pandemic, because of sort of this growing awareness around climate change that
Yeah.
everyone has, and also the fashion industry, some of the things that you've been doing for a while are now becoming, I don't want to say trends, but
That's a good
we're
thing.
hearing more about yes, yeah, we're hearing about regenerative agriculture more. We're seeing more designers create take back programs like yours.
Right. Wonderful.
I guess those are two different questions. I want to hear more about the take back program because you guys have collected, I think it's 1.5 million garments, which
Yes.
is
Yes.
amazing.
Right.
Um, yes, I want to hear about maybe how that's grown and what excites
Yeah.
you there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, oof, it's massive, and it has
Mhm.
really grown. And at the same time, it's still a small percentage of the product we put out there. So we continue to invite our customers to participate and bring their clothes back. But we also have a huge tiny factory, we call it 20,000 square foot tiny factory in Irvington. We also have a recycling center out in Seattle too. But that's where we process everything, and we recycle, we clean and resell. We resell our clothes. It's our Renew program, and we resell online and also through our stores. Not all of our stores, but our outlet stores and several of our other stores. And we have 2 stores dedicated to selling the Renew product. But also what excites me too is there's a lot of clothes that we actually can't sell. They're stained or they're ripped or, just, have been worn for 20 years. People are, keep their clothes a long time, their EILEEN Fisher clothes, because they generally tend to last. But when they do finally turn them in, they're not all that usable. Not, more than half are, but not all of them are. So what we do is we sort them and by fabric and color, and then we remake them into new products. And so we've been in our tiny factory, we've been felting. You can see, actually, I realize my pillows, and the piece behind me is from the factory. So we've discovered this felting machine and are actually putting the recycled clothing and cutting it up and putting it through this felting machine with, like, I don't know how many needles, 1,000 needles or something. And it's this incredible process of kind of pushing the fibers together and creating new materials. And so we've mostly been doing, we're doing some tiny bags. We're about to launch the collection, I think, a new collection is about to land. These little, phone purses that, those little crossbody bags, they're really cute. And, each one is different. And also just making wall pieces and pillows and things of that nature. Just, ultimately we'll do other things, rugs, but it's so exciting that you can make things. And to me, what's really been interesting is the materials. Starting when we start with good quality materials, they're still good even when they're not really exactly usable in their original form. And then you can make them into things that, are like even worth more than the original things. That's amazing to me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that touches on
the idea of upcycling, I guess. Upcycling.
Yes. Yeah. And circularity and all of those sort of fuzzy
that's another good word. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what's interesting is just the idea of a company taking responsibility for the whole life cycle, whether it becomes another, a shirt or a piece of art or, which is so radical. I mean, people are starting to get into it now, I think, like some other designers, but it's a totally radical concept as opposed to the consumer being like stuck with needing to figure it out.
Right. No, exactly. Or it landing in the landfill, And I do think other people are starting to do things. I think our felting program is particularly innovative, but people are doing a lot, and not a lot, and not enough yet. But it's hard, I think it is really actually quite difficult. It's quite a thing. I mean, just the quantity of things to walk through that warehouse and see. I mean, just full of bags and, and just to pay rent, to say it, on all the space that it takes, it's quite a thing, but, it feels good to do it, and it's exciting, and we're still learning so much, and it's really complicated. It's just the sorting process. I hear that people are working on machines to help sort. I'm excited about that, because we have trained sorters and really good hands to know the difference between, rayon and silk and linen and, cottons and all those subtleties, the blends and things like that. It's quite a lot because you have to sort by fabric and use it, by fabric. So very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it's I mean, essentially like starting another business, right? Like the idea of a brand taking their stuff back sounds really cool on paper, but it is like
Right.
a incredibly complex process
Yeah.
that takes, a lot of commitment, I'm sure, and investment and time and
Yeah, and in fact, the first part of it where you take the clothes back and then you resell them, that is a concept that's profitable actually, So it can generate resources that help to support the other work. So I would encourage other companies to do it because it can work. People give their things to Goodwill and they resell it and they use the money, to support, their charity work. So there's money to be made in it. So it's worth doing even if you're just thinking profits. It's not like lots of profit, but it's worth it. So it's good.
have
Good.
you found that that your customer and also new customers are growing more interested in buying the secondhand pieces? Like, was it
Yes.
at all a struggle in the beginning, like maybe engaging people with these used items and getting them excited about them?
Do you know that it was never a struggle? I mean, the minute we did it, our customers didn't see the difference. Well, partly because of our concept. So our clothes are timeless and they're simple, and we just are kind of reinventing them all the time, bringing new colors and working with the same fabrics and that kind of thing. So when we first introduced it, I don't know how many years ago, 12 or more, um, when we first opened our lab store up here in Irvington to test it, um, we had a section for Renew. It was called Green EILEEN at that time. And the customers came into the store and they just shopped the whole store. They didn't realize, some of them didn't even realize they were picking things from the Renew area. Then we started telling the story and labeling it and things like that and explaining it to people. But they bought the clothes. If they liked a garment, sometimes they like an old garment and mix it with the new and, just as much as new. And then it's a better price too. Um, so it's sort of win-win for everybody.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's amazing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That
some
people didn't even.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard in some stores, like probably in some of our higher rent locations, maybe to incorporate it, or our smaller stores to give it a space because everything is one of a kind, and you don't have sizes. That's been the most difficult thing. If someone likes a thing, you don't have another size. It's in a small or medium or whatever it's in, and that's it. But that makes it kind of special to people too. And a lot of people just love like vintage shopping. So not me. That's hard for me. I'm too complicated.
On the note about the take back programs, I guess I wanted to ask you, just when you think about fashion's future and the industry trying to become more sustainable, and thinking about all of the different ways that needs to happen, do you see that idea of take back schemes and circularity being a transformative power in the industry if more people adopt it and make it happen?
Sure. I do think anything we can do to reduce the amount that we produce helps, and the amount that we buy new.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a big difference. I also think that the materials themselves is another really transformative piece. But I just echo, yes, the circularity piece I think can make a big difference.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other piece is the sustainable materials.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of transformative power in, for example, regenerative agriculture. That possibility that you could actually leave the land better after you grow cotton, or after you are, herding sheep for wool, that you could actually create an environment where the ecosystem is healthier and therefore draws down carbon. That's pretty amazing idea around positive change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little different than circularity, but it's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I guess for people who maybe are watching and aren't fully up to speed on what regenerative agriculture is, Um, yeah, maybe could you explain a little bit about what it means and how it does relate to fashion and what you're doing and how
Right.
it factors into EILEEN Fisher?
Right. Right. Well, I'm not an expert on regenerative agriculture. I should turn you over to a few of my internal experts, but there's a lot of passion around it. Um, but actually, one of the things we're doing is um, working with our wool, our regenerative wool supplier. And what they do, is the way they herd the sheep. Um, it's something to do with fencing and containing the sheep and then letting the land kind of regenerate, and so then you have more grasses and stuff growing, and then that draws down the carbon, and then they shift. And I, you know, I don't think I can describe it as well as it should be described, deserves to be described, um, but it's pretty interesting what can be done. So sorry, I have tons of information on it. Some
No,
of
yeah,
my website and see it. It's pretty amazing.
yes. I think that, yeah, the takeaway, like you mentioned, is just that, to your point, like farming cotton a certain way,
Right.
organically and biodynamically, and sheep and all, the way the sheep are herded and so many things,
Right.
eventually makes the land healthier and draws down carbon. And I think the way you put it in a story last year was just that, sustainable fashion is sort of just doing less harm and
Well,
less bad. But this is something that could make a positive impact.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, we're such polluters, our industry. And, yes, we want to do less harm. We want to get the polluting chemistry and pesticides out. But the idea that we could move things forward and,
Mhm.
draw down carbon and clean the water as we go with
Mhm.
clean technologies and things like that. Those are very exciting breakthroughs. And
Right.
that gives me a lot of hope for our industry.
Hmm. Are those things where, like your current product line is
Right.
using those materials already?
Yeah.
Or is it okay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
uh,
I know it takes time for things to become regenerative, right? Like to actually be able to access it. So now that it's becoming a trend,
right.
you know, it
Right.
takes a minute for the materials to be grown, right?
Exactly. Well, and that's one of the hardest things about being a sustainable company is that you have to commit early, literally at the farm level to get organic cotton and regenerative wool. So you have to really work with the farmers and suppliers on that level. So
Mhm.
yes, we've been doing that for many years. And I think, all of our cottons are basically organic, and our linens are basically all organic today. And our wool, I think 35% of our wools are regenerative, and we're working on it all the time, getting more and more moving in that direction. So, um, and even if our wools are not fully regenerative, if then we call responsible wool that also have other processes that are not
Mhm.
as far along as we want to be, but better than conventional. So it's like I like to say, we're not perfect, and there's a lot of work to do, but we keep going, and we measure what we do, and we try to keep moving the needle.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that is, I agree. That's a really exciting area to be working in. I could ask you so many more questions about that and just
I need to
materials.
bring my
Yep.
teams in because I might not be able to answer them all.
Yeah, just thinking, and to your point earlier, like making these beautiful materials organically that are then reusable. It's not just something that disintegrates after
Right.
one person.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's exciting.
mhm.
Right. Not to, yeah. But first of all, I think for us, the whole thing starts with, the way we design and the kind of styles and the
Right.
materials that we use and the timelessness the styles themselves, so they don't go out of fashion. That whole idea of, just planned obsolescence is something we just don't buy into. We've been doing many of the same styles since the very early days.
Mm-hmm.
Just tweaking them, or doing them in new materials or new colors, and putting them together in different ways, different proportions, different textures, things like that, and that's what makes it new.
Mm-hmm.
So that idea of the whole way you design, even before you're talking about materials and circularity, just the whole way you think about clothing, so that it lasts a longer time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's a good segue into probably my last question, which is just for the students watching whose dream is to be the next EILEEN Fisher or to start their own brand. This is a big question, but what is your advice to them in terms of starting a business that is sustainable and resilient and, committed to these sort of values?
Yeah, that's good. Well, I would say I would just encourage them to, to look at everything, as an opportunity, to make a difference. So look at all the materials that you are working with. Ask questions. I started by asking the suppliers questions. Could you make this organic? How would we do that? Can you make it without the synthetics? Can you, can you take this finish off? Does it need this nasty chemical finish? How can we do this differently? So just asking questions, and that makes the suppliers really interested in serving you. They think, oh, then they started bringing to us, more organic materials and more sustainable materials and that kind of thing. So educating yourself, asking questions, learning, and just keep going. It's a constant movement forward. Just doing the best you can, and it's wonderful to have the opportunity to start fresh. I mean, some of our thing was retooling. We had best-selling fabrics that we weren't sure if we had to increase the price if the customers were still going to buy them. So that was over time we took some losses and made some, took some risks, and it took us a while to pretty much, and we still have a couple of fabrics that we bought so heavily into years ago that we're still, working out of our system, that aren't as sustainable as the newer materials that we're working with, but we're getting there every day further. So one day at a time, don't be too hard on yourself, and take care of yourself. Don't work too hard, because this industry will kill you. That's a different thing.
That's great advice. It's very good advice. And what you said about taking risks and just being, really true to yourself, like you said earlier, and doing what feels right. And it's easier said than done, I'm sure. But
yeah. One other thing I always like to say is in the mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes. Sometimes I beat myself up. Oh my God, why did I do that? Or why did we did this wrong? Or that style was just not right. We make millions of mistakes, and in every single mistake, there's an opportunity to learn and to do it differently. And I say the possibility is in the problem. So, dive into the problems, look at the truth, help people around you to tell you the truth, make them feel safe, that they can say, I don't know if I like that, or who would wear that really? Let them know that it's okay, and that it's okay to learn and keep going and keep making mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's excellent advice. And like I said, I could ask so many more questions, but I feel like we're out of time. But this was so great to catch up and hear about what you're working on.
Well, thank you, Emily.
Yeah. Congratulations on the award.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.